Hello, hello, and good evening, and Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome to the executive meeting on the 7th of January 2025. Moving to item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
Yep, we've received apologies from Councillor Dumont, Councillor Glover Ward, and Councillor Wilson.
Right, thank you very much. Item 2, leaders' announcements. I've not got anything, I think, beyond the usual. Please just remember to use your microphones and so that everyone online can hear you. Item 3 is the minutes, which were the 19th of November 2024, and that's on pages 5 to 7 of the agenda pack. Members, we have before us the minutes from the committee meeting, which was held on the 19th of November last year. Are you content for me as leader to sign the minutes? Can I have a proposer, please? Tim, thank you. And seconder? Thanks, Carl. Can we have a vote? All those in favour? Thank you very much. Anyone against? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Thanks, you were here. Yeah. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest tonight? No. Lovely, thank you. Item 5 is the draft budget 2025-26 and medium-term financial plan 25-26, which is on pages 8 to 21 of the agenda pack. And I'll hand over to Councillor Carl Britton, Executive Member for Financial Sustainability, to present the report.
Thank you, Leader. The report presents the latest medium-term financial plan 2025 to 2035 in Appendix A, along with a breakdown of the savings proposals in Appendices B and C. Despite the uncertainty around the future of East Darts District Council following the English Devolution White Paper, it is still a requirement to set a balanced budget and produce a medium-term financial plan. The government finance settlement is now largely understood, though the grant to cover the national insurance increase is not yet known. The latest indications are that it will fall slightly short of the £200,000 estimated within this plan. The report presents a balanced budget for 25-26 with a small 6k surplus. Beyond 25-26, there are still significant savings to be made. However, some of these may be realised through existing work streams. The base case medium-term financial plan was shared with the Executive in October 2024, and this showed a budget gap of approximately £2 million. Base budgets, statutory and non-statutory services have been reviewed and savings options considered and discussed at both leadership team meetings and joint meetings with the Executive. These meetings resulted in the identification of a further £1.46 million of office delegated savings and £492,000 of member recommended savings, and these are detailed in the appendices. Also detailed in Appendix C are those suggestions that were rejected by the Executive. These include reduction or cessation of planning enforcement or the reduction or cessation of the grant to Citizens Advice. The key changes to the latest medium-term financial plan are shown in sections 1.6 to 1.9 of the report. A particular note here include gains from the extended producer responsibility payment and the lower than expected pay award and the reduction in capital expenditure charged to the revenue accounts. However, these are offset by a reduction in the income forecast for BEAM and the rising employees' national insurance and the ongoing rates liability for Chariton's House. Further work is also being undertaken on the Council's MRPs policy. It is believed that changes to this might generate new savings, which can be used to boost the interest equalisation reserve, currently earmarked for use in offsetting capital shortfalls from the council property investments, which are currently in the process of being wound down. On council tax, the medium-term financial plan is based on a 2.98% increase, which is the maximum allowed without a referendum. The ongoing pressures of high interest rates and the continuing lack of adequate funding from government leave the council with little choice. It should be emphasised at this stage that this budget requires all the planned savings to be realised. In order to achieve this balanced budget, we have had to draw £164,000 from earmarked reserves with no plan to add to our reserves. This means there is little to fall back on should the savings not materialise as planned. I'd like to propose this report and the recommendations on page 8 and 9 of the reports back. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Carl. I wanted to start just by thanking you and officers, Matthew, and thanks Stephen as well last year. I know this is at the moment, as well as a challenging financial year, we've also had, and obviously a new government, and so that's added to the financial complexities. So I think that should be recognised. So lots of hard work. Any questions or comments? Oh, sorry, forget you proposed that. Can I have a seconder, please? Oh, Tim, thank you very much. Yeah, comments, questions. Bob?
Thank you very much, Ben, and I'd echo appreciation to everybody involved in putting the budget together. I know it's not an easy thing to do, so thank you very much for all the work that's gone into it. I've got one question. I'm not quite sure of my page numbering here. Anyway, it arises from table 3, which I think begins on page 3 of 10 and stretches into page 4. And specifically, it relates to the proposed increase in garden waste charges. 2 questions. First is, to be fair to the information in the grid, you do use the word increase, but this is in a section of the report that's relative to savings. I think residents might be interested to know how a saving combobulates into an increase or vice versa. And my second question is, how does this proposal compare with the thinking of North Herts, with whom obviously we are in joint venture on this?
Thank you, Councillor Ziering. So just to answer the first question, obviously the increase to residents is a saving to the council. I suppose it's not a saving in terms of the council spending less money. It's a saving in terms of the council receiving more money. But it has the same net effect, and I think it's just terminology that we use the term savings for anything that gives a net income to the council. So I can appreciate that from a resident point of view, they might see savings and think they're going to save money, but actually it's saving to the council, not to the resident. So yeah, I understand why there's a confusion there, but it's just the terminology that's used. With regard to the North Herts, the North Herts position was considered, but we felt that because of the severe challenge and the particular financial position we're in, we really have no choice but to increase the garden waste by £10, and this actually just brings it into line with many of the districts that surround us. I think that's £59 is a popular figure for the garden waste charge, so it's really just bringing us into line. It's not been increased, I don't believe, since 2021, so I think there's 4 years of inflation within that increase, and I think obviously general inflation over that time has been over 20%, so it's merely an inflationary rise over that time period.
Thank you. I think in all fairness, to try and dress up an increase in cost to a resident as a saving is a little bit disingenuous. I don't think you'd suggest that council tax represents a saving for residents. It's an amount they have to pay. I would like to think that maybe the terminology that's being used here could be more accurate when it comes to presenting this particular item at full council. In relation to North Herts, my understanding is that North Herts are proposing an increase, but less than the increase we're proposing. On the assumption you know what that increase that they're proposing is, perhaps you could just inform this meeting of what North Herts are proposing, and then attempt again to explain why we are proposing an increase which is greater than the increase being proposed by our joint venture partner.
I don't actually have the detail of exactly what North Herts are proposing. I know in the discussion that we had around this, they were looking at a lower figure, but I'm not sure that was finalised. So I think they were still discussing it as well. So I think we were in the situation where both councils were having their own discussions internally. We may have come up with a higher figure than North Herts, but we decided that actually there was no need for us to have the same figure as North Herts. I think there was an understanding that we'd try and align, but I think the circumstances were that we just needed to step out of that and do this £10.
Thank you very much for the response. My understanding is that North Herts are going to propose an increase of 6. So at 10, we are obviously proportionally significantly in excess of that. And I just big point. I think residents will find it very difficult to understand why, on a joint venture that we have with a fellow council, that we would be proposing to put our charges to residents up. This is not a saving. This is an increased cost for residents. We're proposing to put our costs up by £10 when the fellow authority is only proposing an increase of 6. But, and obviously come back if you wish, but we both made our points. But I think that's what residents will feel about this.
Yeah, and I totally understand that, but obviously the two councils have different financial situations. I think I don't know the detail of North Herts, but I would expect that their financial position is probably not as challenging as ours in terms of their sort of revenue account.
Yeah, I just think on the back of that, I think it's worth remembering that it's a commercial offering. People can either choose to buy this as a service or not. So it's not something that we impose on people. They'll have to judge whether it's value for money in their own way. So each year when it comes to renewal, if they consider that to be good value for money, which we think it is, then they'll renew. If not, then it's not forced on anybody.
Okay, any other question? No? Okay, right. Thank you very much. So there are recommendations for this item are detailed on page 8 and 9 of the agenda pack, A and B. Can I have a show of hands, please, to indicate whether you're in favour? Thank you very much. Anyone against or abstaining? No, that's carried. Thank you very much. Right, the next item is item 6, which is the Capital Receipts Programme, authority to dispose of assets by sale, which is on pages 22 to 34 of the agenda pack. Councillor Carl Britton, Executive Member for Financial Sustainability, is back to you.
Thank you, Leader. This report seeks to give greater flexibility to officers with regard to the sale of assets approved at the executive meeting of the 1st of October 2024, and to also seek authorisation for a further set of disposals. Recommendation A specifically refers to assets already approved for disposal. The 4 sites are listed in section 1.1 of the report, and it is felt that removing the stipulation of sale by auction may help the council achieve better value. Recommendation B refers purely to Southern Maltings in Ware and seeks to authorise disposal to Ware Town Council on a 99-year lease. Recommendations C to E are for the disposal of 3 property assets, which is felt bring no direct benefit to the council. The sale of these 3 assets will enable the council to pay down more debt and reduce the interest burden on the council. Details of these assets are listed in sections 3.4 to 3.11 in the report, and site plans are included in Appendix A. Officers estimate the total value of the assets in this report to be £900,000 to £1 million, which, if achieved, would generate up to £85,000 of annual revenue savings. I'd like to propose this report.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Could I have a seconder, please? Oh, thanks, Miley. Thank you. Any comments or questions? Just a reminder that appendices 1 and 8 are restricted, and if we want to talk about those specifically. Oh, sorry, one, appendices 1 and B. Just appendices. Just appendices B is restricted. I apologise. So if we want to discuss what its contents, then we will need to go into part 2. Bob, yeah.
Thank you very much. My question may take us, well, may bear on part 2. I won't push to go into part 2 if we can avoid it. And my question relates to Lee Wharf proposal to dispose of Lee Wharf on a 99-year lease. And I will also apologise if there's something in the papers that I've not spotted. But I'm not sure that I've seen anything in the papers that I've seen as to the value that we think we will achieve for that 99-year lease. 99 years is not unusual, obviously, but equally it's quite a long time. So I'm interested to know what value we think we'll get for the 99-year lease. And of course, I'd also like reassurance that we've been advised on value by independent external consultants who are properly equipped to advise on what the value of a 99-year lease of that property in that particular location in Ware is, please.
Can I just add a correction? You said Lee Wharf. I think you meant Southern Maltings. Is that
Yes? I beg
okay?
your pardon.
That's
Yes,
right.
Yes. Yeah.
Just checking. Oh no, that's what I thought. Yeah. Sorry, Carl.
Yes, thank you for the question. Yeah, I would need to find out, but what advice we've had, I'm not sure whether we've got any answers at the moment, have we? Jonathan, would you know? We had advice?
Yeah, what I would say in that, in terms of the value that is in the exempt paper, so I'll just refer if people wish to look at that, and that this has been led by our property team, who include valuers and take advice where sought. So the value is in there, and that does recognise the nature of its continued use and liabilities that would be the council will be relieved of.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that this council needs to be careful of on this is that it doesn't create the notion that this is quite a cosy deal done with, with the support of Ware Council. Quite important. Forgive me, Jonathan, didn't quite catch everything you said. Wasn't quite clear whether we've had independent advice on value. Do think that's probably very important. And I think you did allude to it. There are different ways of valuing assets, aren't there? This particular asset is valued simply as an arts centre. That will have a bearing on its value. If it's valued as a prospective commercial site, I think that would be rather different. I'm at the moment totally unclear as to the basis. Well, at the minute, I'm unclear as to whether we've had any independent advice at all. And secondly, if we have, I'm unclear as to whether the advice has been relative to an arts centre or a site in the middle of a town which could be developed at some considerable value.
Go on. I don't have to hand the exact nature of whether that was whether there was independent valuations on that, independent of the valuers that we have, and that they are required by the professional qualification and member of RICS to value that in the appropriate way. So I think, in a sense, I wouldn't. Whether it's independent or not, or valued another way, I don't think that makes such a bearing on it. I think the point about the basis of its valuation in paragraph 3.2, if I draw members to that attention, that the nature of the lease is for the continued use of that building as a community arts centre. So it is safeguarding it. It's preserving it as a continued community use, which it is, and that's the nature of that lease. And that's reflected then in terms of the value, as I say, it's in Appendix B, so I won't refer to the detail of that. And that is the nature that of its use and its continued value to the community.
Trying to keep it to 3 bites, it's okay. Well, I'd understood your comments there, but of course that begs the question as to whether that's the appropriate valuation basis, given that we're dealing with taxpayers' money. I mean, I'm not a property valuer, but I would have thought that there would be a very significant difference in the value between an arts centre and a site in the middle of a town that could be developed. Strikes me as a fundamental issue, and I just wonder where we are on that in terms of the duties that we owe taxpayers to get best consideration. Legal duties that we owe.
So I think I take your point that there's obviously a difference in value, but there's also value to the community in having an arts centre, which is less tangible, but it's still real. I think people of Ware would probably rather see an arts centre in their community than a couple of pounds less on the council tax bill if it came to that. So I think that's the decision you have to make, isn't it? So yeah, we're trying to sell it or to sell the lease to Ware Town Council to continue to run it as an arts centre, because it's a successful arts centre as it is. And you know, obviously Ware Town Council have expressed an interest in purchasing it, and obviously we're looking to sell assets. So this is a way that we can generate revenue for this council and preserve the community arts centre for the people of Ware. And that has a value that may not be financial, but is still a value.
Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Right. Any other questions? Any other comments? Carolyn? No, no, you're okay. Okay. Right. Okay. So the recommendations for this item are detailed on pages 22 and 23 of the agenda pack. I think there are 5 recommendations. Can we have a show of hands to indicate whether we're in favour or against? In favour? Thank you very much. Anyone against or abstaining? No. Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. Item 7 is urgent business. Is there any urgent business? There's none. Okay. So at 7:23, I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.